Hey, brothers and sisters, thanks for joining me. Today, let's talk about Angela Raynor. They're talking about her as if she is going to be the next Prime Minister of the UK if something happens to Keir Starmer and he gets the boot, but Labour retains power. She's today the Deputy Prime Minister, but there's a little bit of a scandal going on here. So let's talk about it. Let's see what's going on. So I found this in The Independent. Starmer determined to save Angela Raynor amid tax dodge probe. Prime Minister reportedly feels he will hand a scalp by sacking his deputy. She dodged taxes? Nah, that can't be possible. I thought Labour was all about making sure everyone pays their fair share, and everyone should be paying more tax, according to Labour, right? The inheritance tax on the farms. This can't be right. She would never do that. So this is a story by Archie Mitchell on Thursday, September 4th. So there's a video here. Let's watch it, see if it's interesting. And I have not read this article yet or watched this video. So let's see what this is about.
Deputy Prime Minister, you've been accused of dodging a £40,000 tax bill on your new home on the South Coast.
£40,000.
You said it was your main home, while also claiming your constituency home in Ashton was your main home for other purposes. Do you just want to clear this up? What's going on?
Yeah, first of all, Beth, it's been quite a distressing time for my family. I have a court order that was in place around confidentiality regarding my son, my family and my divorce proceedings that happened in 2023, and therefore wasn't able to give a full account of the circumstances of our complex living arrangements. That order was lifted last night. I applied to have that order lifted so that I could give people the information. In 2020, my son had an award, and a trust was set up by the court to deal with his finances as part of that award with a legal trustee. And in 2023, when me and my husband divorced, the decision was, because that home was adapted to support my son who has lifelong disabilities as a result of that injury that occurred to him, that trust was set up, and they decided that they would take on the property so that me and my husband could have a nesting arrangement where we could provide for my child in our family home, which is our family home and remains our family home. So when I'm looking after the children, I go back to the family home, and then when my ex-husband is looking after children, he does, and it was done primarily to support my son with his additional needs and to provide stability for them during the divorce. And that was the arrangement that we put in place. I then went to took my life savings basically out of the property, the 25% that I still owned within the property, took that money out so that I could purchase with a mortgage the place in Hove. And I took advice on that, and I relied on that legal advice that I received that said that I was liable to pay the standard stamp duty. Subsequently to that, with all of the media reports that have been coming out, I took expert counsel advice on all of my affairs to ensure that everything was done proper, and that expert counsel said that the advice that I received was inaccurate because of the trust. I don't own the property, that is true. I only own one property that is mortgaged, like most people. But because of the nature of the trust that was set up by the court, that I would be liable to pay the additional stamp duty. As soon as I knew that that was the case, I have alerted and referred myself to the independent advisor on the ministerial code to ensure that they can look transparently at what's happened, and also contacted HMRC to say that there is additional tax owing on this, and that I'm prepared to pay that and fully comply with the HMRC as well.
All right, there you have it. You've got the story from the lady's mouth, and I didn't want to interrupt her. I wanted to give her a chance to defend herself. So it sounds like she has a complicated family living arrangement, and she's claiming that her accountant, her lawyer, whoever advised her she should pay a certain amount, and it was incorrect, and now she's willing to pay it. Okay, so that's her. I think that's a paraphrase of her story. All right, let's go down and read this, and at the end, after we read it, I'll see what I think. Sir Keir Starmer is determined to save Angela Raynor after she admitted to dodging $40,000 in tax when purchasing a property. After weeks of speculation about her property arrangements, the Deputy Prime Minister conceded that she had not paid enough stamp duty on her £800,000 seaside flat in Hove, East Sussex. And the Prime Minister is reportedly prepared to do whatever he can to save his deputy, having vowed not to hand his critics a scalp. A senior ally of the PM told the Times he has genuine sympathy for Miss Raynor's position and will do what he can to keep her in his top team, but that ultimately her fate will be decided by the outcome of an independent ethics probe. Miss Raynor referred herself to the Prime Minister's independent ethics advisor, who will interview her over the property purchase in the coming days as part of an investigation into the scandal. She had been under pressure after it was reported that she had saved £40,000 in stamp duty by removing her name from the deeds of a family home in Ashton Underline constituency, classifying the Hove flat as her only property despite still spending time at the family home. In Wednesday's statement, she said she had taken legal advice when she bought the South Coast flat, which suggested she was liable to pay standard stamp duty, but had then sought further advice from a leading tax counsel after headlines about the arrangement. But Tory leader Kemi Badenoch said that the Prime Minister should sack his deputy. She added, "I remember when the Prime Minister said tax evasion is a criminal offense, ouch, and should be treated as all other fraud. If he had a backbone, he would sack her." At PM's questions, Sir Keir Starmer backed Miss Raynor, saying he was very proud to sit alongside her and praised her decision to refer herself to the independent ethics advisor, Sir Laurie Magnus. The Education Secretary refused on Thursday to back Miss Raynor, staying in post, saying, "We have an independent process, an independent advisor. I'm not going to prejudge that." I think it's right that the independent advisor now looks at all matters in the case, all the facts, and he has time and whatever he needs in order to reach his conclusion. She stressed that Raynor initially believed she acted in good faith, paid the required taxes when purchasing the Hove flat. In an emotional televised interview, that's what we just watched, Miss Raynor, who is also the housing secretary, yeah, the irony, said she has been in shock and devastated over the scandal. She insisted it was not a tax dodge and blamed the underpayment mistake on incorrect legal advice. She told Sky News, "I've been in shock, really, because I thought I'd done everything properly and relied on the advice that I received, and I'm devastated because I've always upheld the rules and have always done, and always felt proud to do that. I feel, that it's devastating for me." Wow, this one is complicated. I'm not sure. I got to take a second to think about this. But you know what she did? She's claiming she took advice and it's a bookkeeping error or that caused her to pay not enough taxes, not understanding the accounting system. That's actually very similar to what Donald Trump did on his 34 felonies. A court found that was incorrect and he fiddled the books, and that's where his 34 felonies came from, which no other court outside of New York would possibly have even charged him for, because that was definitely a stitch up. So this is a tough one. So if she was a normal person, I would say, you know what? She made a mistake. People make mistakes. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt. She pays the amount of tax and any legally required fine, any penalty, and we'd be done with it. Problem is, she's the Deputy Prime Minister of Labour, and Starmer has said tax evasion is fraud. So from that perspective, Starmer should fire her. He's got a lot going on. Does he really need this distraction when the raising the colors is happening, when the Met is arresting comedians who aren't even British for saying something mean on Twitter months ago in Arizona, when little girls are running around with knives and axes in Scotland, when migrant hotels are being protested every day and there does appear to be two-tier justice. This is a headache I don't think he needs. The problem with his independent ethics probe, no one's going to believe it's independent. If she gets off on this, everyone's going to believe it was a whitewash. This is just like him saying you have free speech in the UK, and everyone knows he's lying about that. So everyone's going to think he's lying about this. Now, on the flip side of that, as a good person, if he really does believe that she made a mistake and he wants to keep her on out of loyalty to his people, I completely get that too. But he really is in an impossible position. I do believe politically probably the best thing he could do to get attention off of this is to just fire her as deputy prime minister. I'm glad I'm not in his shoes on this one. So he's got an impossible choice. I'm not going to say he's wrong to keep her. I'm not going to say he's wrong to sack her. This one's a tough one. And of course, Kemi is going to say sack her. The opposition is always going to do that when they smell blood in the water. But again, it's an impossible choice. Let me know what you think in the comments. Should she be sacked? Should she get a pass this time? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, and like and subscribe if you do. If you don't watch me. Thanks. Bye.